Welcome to my first video after the initial one I made. This one's going to be about the first object I've been talking about, and that's the Bible that I acquired some time ago, and was printed in 1853 by the American Bible Society, so I call it my Civil War Bible. And the reason I do that is because there's very important notation in there about a particular battle in the Civil War. But anyway, about the Bible a little bit, it was put out by the American Bible Society that was founded in 1816, which was made up of about 24 different Bible societies that were in the States. Their chief mission was to distribute as many Bibles as possible to the population in the United States. The founder and the first chairman was Elias Benedict. I think it's how it's pronounced, Boudinoth. From 1740 to 1821, he passed away then. He was the first delegate to the First Continental Congress and the first chairman of the Bible Society. They used the King James Version, and this was their primary issuance in the New Testament, Psalms, and the whole Bible without note or comment. When they discovered stereotype printing, they were able to print more Bibles and distribute more, and in 60 different forms. They used different languages and even put them in some of the American Indian languages too. Now in 1829 they printed about 360,000 Bibles, and by 1924 or 1912 they published it in 84 different languages and distributed something like 360,000 Bibles. And today, as of 1986, it's been a while, they distribute up to 290 million Bibles throughout the world. And during the Civil War, they did distribute them throughout the South, but during the Civil War, because of blockades, the Confederacy had to go and ship theirs in from England. So I'm pretty sure that this Bible that this family had in Savannah, Georgia, was there well before the Civil War, because I think the first notation was in 1858, which was a marriage that took place between two people that I will talk about. And we'll have, some pictures to show you and insert here, so I'm not too technical on that stuff. My production assistant will help us with that, my granddaughter. But at any rate, there were notes made, personal inscriptions made about marriages, births, deaths, and everything that took place in that time during those years. And what I wanted to do was read some of what the inscriptions were describing or talking about. As far as marriages now, and also I might want to note that what I did was I looked at these in chronological order, so that I can make some sense of how this historically went in as the years went by, and who it was and who was married to who and so on. But at any rate, the first entry was married at Savannah on the 29th day of June 1858 by the Reverend George H. Clark, rector of St. John's Church, to Annie S. Gerard, to John N. McGriffin, that's how they wrote it, to Annie S. Gerard, to John N. McGriffin of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. So it was a Pennsylvania guy that had went to Savannah, Georgia, and for whatever reason, and he ended up marrying Annie from Savannah. The second marriage notation was married at Newcastle, this is back in Pennsylvania, on November 9th of 1882 by the Reverend J.D. Heron, rector of Trinity Episcopal Church, at the residence of R.B. McCarroll, Joanna G. McGriffin, and William H. Rogers. Okay, those are the two marriages that were written in there. Now on the birth, they have just one entry. Born in Savannah, Georgia, Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, April 23rd, 1859. Joanna Gerard McGriffin, christened there by the Reverend George H. Clark, rector of St. John's Church. Harriet Elizabeth Gerard and John Matthew Gerard were her sponsors. Now, as far as the deaths that were listed in the Bible, the first one was died at Newcastle, Pennsylvania. We're back in Pennsylvania now. John N. McGriffin on Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock on the 23rd of February, 1859. Now, here's the significant one. Not that they aren't all significant, but the one that really got my interest was this one. Died at Lincoln Hospital, Washington, D.C. on the 26th of June, 1865, from wounds received in the Battle of Sailor's Creek, April 6, 1865. Private Joseph N. Girard, Company B, 18th Georgia Battalion, aged 22 years old. So this is one I've been trying to research, looking for this particular soldier. I've come close, but not really close enough to know what was going on after he had died, or where he was buried. There was no information on that. And there was one other death. Died at Savannah, Georgia, January 15th, 1897. William N. Rogers, aged 40 years and 5 months. Now, he was the last one that was listed in here. Now, what I did was I looked at all of these notations, and I kind of looked at the chronology of what these dates were, and let's see. I had written these down, and here they are. Annie S. Girard, the first marriage I listed, married John N. McGriffin in Savannah, June 29, 1858. Joanna Girard McGriffin was born on April 23, 1859. She was christened at St. John's Church and was sponsored by those parents I mentioned, Harriet and John Girard. Now, Joanna G. McGriffin, the daughter that was baptized in 1859, she married William N. Rogers in Newcastle in November of 1882. And if you look at the difference in the time, 59 to 82, that puts her at about 23 years of age, I believe. So she was baptized there when she was born in 1859. She got married in 1882 to William N. Rogers. Now, it was written that John N. McGriffin died on Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock on the 23rd of February of 1859, the same, just a few months after he married Annie. And here he is. He dies a couple of months later, 8 months to be exact, after marriage in 1858. So that means that Joanna had to be pregnant during that time, prior to February of 1858. So, excuse my stumbling around. So that means that, well, they got married, then she got pregnant, and then she had Joanna Girard McGriffin. So I'm imagining that she was a widow very early on in their marriage. Another death, and that was of William N. Rogers, who married Joanna McGriffin, G. McGriffin, in Newcastle in 1882. He died on Wednesday afternoon, I had just mentioned the last one, at 1897 in Savannah. So apparently he moved back to Savannah with her because the older McGriffin was from Newcastle. So he died in 1897, so they were married for 15 years before he died. Now, with regard to Private John N. Girard, or Joseph N. Girard, the only thing I can discern from this as far as his parents, I'm going to assume that it looks like the sponsored parents of Joanna G. McGriffin were the parents of Joseph, which were Harriet Elizabeth and John Matthew Girard. They may have been his parents, but I don't know that. There's no way of connecting them as far as what I could see so far online. So here I got noted that Annie got pregnant sometime between July and August of 1858. That was the previous note I made about her. being with child. So it's kind of an interesting timeline, and the interesting to try to research this. And my biggest wish is that I could find the descendants of this Bible and present it to them. I had it restored. It cost me a few bucks, but hey, I think it's more important to get this back to the family that originally had this Bible, or the descendants of the family that originally had this Bible in Savannah, Georgia. So that's my story for today, and I don't have a word for today because I was so busy, researching the information that I got from this Bible, that on my next one I will, look through my big fat dictionary here and try to come up with some interesting words that aren't used before, that anybody may know about. But since this is my first video presenting this kind of material, I stumbled a little bit, but hey, we're all human, right? But at any rate, I hope you enjoyed and were interested in what I was telling you. And the other thing is, if anybody out there, whoever watches this, knows of any way of allowing me to further research this and seeing if I can find a timeline and a family tree of these people that were noted in this file, in particular Joseph and Gerard. I would like to find out more about him, where he might be buried, possibly. What he was. I believe he was an infantryman. And the other thing I might say, the Battle of Sailor's Creek. I'm sorry, I forgot about that one. Don't mean to drag this out, but the Battle of Sailor's Creek. That battle started in 1865, April 4th of 1865. And it went on for 3 days. And at the end of the third day, April 6th, is when Joseph Gerard was wounded. And the irony is that I think was one of the last, if not the last, battle in the Civil War, in which 3 days later, General Lee surrendered in Appomattox to General Grant. So this young man, for all the time he was in, however long that was, got his wound on the very last day and was unfortunately unable to sustain those wounds, and he died. And that's kind of an ironic thing. And General Lee knew it was over with because he saw his troops withdrawing without weapons. They looked a little bedraggled and ragged, and they were just coming at him. And he had one company that was willing to go back in and continue to fight, but he told them, forget it. He said the army is lost, and 3 days later, subsequently, he surrendered at Appomattox. That's one little note I almost forgot. So there's more information, and if you look it up under the Civil War and you look up the different battles, there's a lot of detail of how many Confederate generals surrendered in that battle alone, and how many troops were killed. Something like 11,000, something like 7,000 to 1,000 Union troops. So it was quite a battle, and significantly probably the last battle of the Civil War. So that little note I want to throw at you. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Let's try this again. Hopefully I'll come up with something more interesting. As interesting, I should say, as the Bible, because that was probably the most interesting piece that I have. Anyway, au revoir, s'il vous plaît, and all that jazz. Adios. Have a good day, night, or evening, wherever you are, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.